Have you ever wanted to do something bold, change careers, start a business, or approach an attractive woman, and then your own mind shut you down? Suddenly your head is flooded with reasons why you're not ready and not good enough, or why it just won't work. It's like your brain has cataloged every possible thing that could go wrong, and it won't shut up about it. But what if I told you that voice in your head might not even be yours? My friend and colleague Jürgen Rasmussen likes to ask his clients, what makes you think those thoughts are your thoughts? If what I'm saying speaks to you, this video will change the way you relate to negative thoughts so they never control you again. And no, that's not the one simple question I promised. That one's still coming. Over a decade ago, I was so buried in negative thinking that I lost all sense of who I was. It led to a depression I couldn't think my way out of until I understood what I'm going to share with you here. Once I saw the structure behind those thoughts and learned how to go meta to them, they lost all their power. And I've helped hundreds of clients do the same. The next 10 minutes could change your life. Let's face it, negative thoughts can be painful. It is that pain that deceives you into believing that your thoughts actually tell you something true about who you are. Later in this video, as promised, I'm going to give you a single question to ask yourself that will diffuse the painful feelings you feel when you encounter a negative thought. It works like magic, and it works instantly. When you combine that question with the understanding you're going to get, you will have a permanent solution for dealing with negative thoughts that works every time. Let me show you exactly how this process works. The best way I can describe what's happening when you get stuck in negative thinking is to explain an extreme experience I went through: depression. I've had 2 major depressive episodes in my life. At the time, I didn't know what was happening. I was aware of my negative thoughts, but I didn't understand how they were clustering and compounding in a way that created a gravitational pull I couldn't escape. It was like getting sucked into a black hole. If you ever felt pulled into negative thoughts against your will, that's a clue that you cannot willpower your way out of this. These thoughts aren't just unpleasant. They trap you in an invisible cage. They cause you to doubt yourself. They distort your view of what's possible. Here's how it works. A single negative thought arises. That thought attracts another similar one, and then another and another. This is how your mind works. Its function is to automatically search for connections and patterns to protect you. Soon the clustering turns into a generalization, a belief. And once it becomes a belief, it governs your reality. It limits you. This is how the mind fills in the gaps of an uncertain world. We form generalizations, mental shortcuts, to navigate the uncertainty. They help us survive when we don't have all of the information. But this same process can trap you. And unfortunately, our biology is wired to prioritize negative thoughts. Why? Because your ancestors who were alert to threats survived. They worried about that rustle in the bushes and didn't get eaten. But we no longer live in caves, and yet our minds still work as if we do. So today, when you imagine a rejection or a failure, your brain treats it like a life-threatening event, even though it's not. And this is the birth of all of your limitations. But you can change this. Once you begin observing this process rather than being trapped inside it, you're free. In neurolinguistic programming, NLP, we call this going meta. You're no longer in the thought. Instead, you're watching this clustering process happen from a safe distance. That's what I eventually learned to do with my depression. I could trace the emotional pain back to a chain of connected thoughts. Many of them started from something real, but it was the linking of those thoughts to thoughts of all of the possible things that could go wrong that dragged me into despair. The mind meant well. It was trying to protect me, but it was using an outdated program. You might find the same thing happening to you. A rejection, a failure, a setback, followed by thoughts like, what if this always happens? Or maybe I'm just not good enough. These aren't truths. They're structures your brain builds to make sense of the world. When this happens in a way that limits you, know that you can transform that process so that it serves you. One of the most powerful ways to do that is by becoming conscious and clear about your deeper values. My mentor, Steve Andreas, defined a value as a generalization about an experience that's important to you. Just like the cluster of negative thoughts made me depressed, I created a cluster of happy experiences. This became a belief about myself that I am a happy person. We are what we believe. Because we believe it, we make it true. And because it's true to us, we keep believing it. When you know what's truly important to you, like being happy, your mind starts filtering reality through that lens. And the clearer you are about what's important to you, the less bandwidth your mind gives to the clutter of negative thoughts. Focusing on your values also prevents negative thoughts from linking and clustering because you don't have the attention for it. and your mind is less inclined to wander in that direction. Knowing your values is important, but you're going to need more than just knowing your values to finish the process. Before I get into the next part, there's a free PDF linked below this video that walks you through a values elicitation process. It's simple and it works. When you focus your attention on what fulfills you, your mind begins building positive generalizations and you start feeling drawn toward the life you actually want effortlessly. Values also act like anchors. If your mind begins to drift toward old patterns of fear or doubt, you can come back to your values like a compass. They don't have to be lofty or abstract. It can be as simple as valuing growth, honesty, connection, or creative expression. Whatever it is for you, clarify it, write it down, revisit it. Because what most people don't realize is that negative thoughts thrive in a vacuum. When you're not intentionally directing your mind toward what matters, your brain defaults to a fear-based survival thinking. Clarity creates focus, forward movement, and momentum. It gives your mind the most rewarding job it can have. The second part is realizing that negative thoughts aren't actually the problem. You're going to have negative thoughts. That's never going to be different. They will float across your mind like clouds floating across the sky. Just like clouds floating across the sky, you don't need to be afraid of them. It's absurd to get angry at them and shake your fist at them. Trying to prove them wrong is just as ridiculous. In other words, stop personalizing them because there's nothing personal about thoughts. They're just thoughts. Just because a thought feels painful doesn't make it true. That pain can deceive you. Emotion isn't reality. Emotion is your response to something happening around you or a representation occurring in your mind. That's all a thought is. Your mind representing something that isn't actually happening. If you've ever had a wave of anxiety or sadness seemingly out of nowhere, that's your unconscious mind fixating on a mental representation that you don't like. What do you do when that happens? Ask yourself, what must I be thinking that would cause me to feel this way? That question brings the unconscious thought to the surface. And once it's conscious, you can observe it and go meta to it. Now here's the most useful question you can ask yourself, the one I promised earlier. But real quick, before I do that, you might be thinking about erasing negative experiences as well as negative thoughts. Stick around because I will give you a resource that will enable you to do that. When a negative thought appears, instead of engaging with it or resisting it, simply ask, is this thought useful to me? That question breaks the trance. It changes the frame. You're not trying to find out whether the thought is true and valid. You're asking if it's useful to you. This one shift can change everything. You can ruminate endlessly about the truth of who you are and never get out of your head long enough to make any movement toward improving your life. But sorting what is useful to you and what's not is the process of improving yourself and your life. Let's walk through this together. You experience a rejection. Maybe you didn't get the job you wanted, or you got turned down when you asked someone out on a date. The old voice pipes up. Maybe I don't deserve what I want. Pause. Ask, is that useful? Is thinking of yourself in terms of deserving what you want useful to you? Of course not. Just by asking yourself that question, you stop judging yourself and you start sorting for practical information that will actually help you. You can apply this to anything, especially feedback from other people. Instead of seeing criticism as an attack or invalidation of your very existence, just ask yourself, is there anything useful here for me to grow? If yes, take it. If not, let it go. This depersonalizes the entire process. You're no longer riding the highs and lows of other people's opinions. You're no longer a prisoner of your own inner critic. Keep in mind that you don't need to eliminate negative thoughts. You just need to stop living your life according to them. Instead, live your life according to your values. Negative thoughts will still appear, but now they float by without sucking you in. You acknowledge them, check for useful information, and move forward. And now for dealing with negative experiences. We often think of negative thoughts as enemies, but what if they're just messengers? What if each one is saying, I'm afraid of something bad happening again? That messenger is a messenger from the negative experiences you've had throughout your life trying to warn you. When you hear them that way, you can respond with curiosity instead of resistance. You can ask, what are you trying to tell me? What is your positive intention for me? Suddenly, instead of fearing your past negative memories overwhelming you, you go meta to them. That's when you can begin the process of transforming them. If you're ready to finally clear the emotional weight of your past by transforming negative experiences into positive experiences, I've created a full training that shows you how to do it. You'll find it right here on your screen.